Hello everyone, Roxabox90 here, back with some more Eldritch Moon spoilers this evening. We have a little more than a handful, but we have some really cool stuff to take a look at, so we will. Before I do, the first 15,000 subscriber giveaway video is up on the channel. Boom, right there. Take a look, check it out. We got some pretty cool, sweet stuff, even in the first part of the opening. And if you guys want to enter, it's pretty easy to definitely check it out. In terms of spoilers for tonight, we have a number of them. Lone Rider is 2 for 1/1 human knight with first strike lifelink. At the beginning of the end step, if you gain 3 or more life this turn, transform it into 2 for a 4/4 first strike trample lifelink. Holy cow. This is a really powerful knight. And realize it's what it is, effectively. We've had many, many knights throughout time. I believe Wizards even had on the page a group of knights that have been in the past. And this one is really, I won't say any different, but it's pretty strong. Realize, of course, that it's only a 1/1 for 2, but it's very, very effective, not too difficult to get 3 life to be able to flip it over, and it also is first strike, which gives it, at least in a limited environment, it's ridiculous, because it in itself is a combat trick and will be very difficult for your opponent to want to block, and turns into an even better beater if you can pay the cost, which I'm assuming in the set they'll have some form of life gain. So all in all, I think it's a very strong 2-drop. I really do. And the fact that it could very effectively, it doesn't have to even attack, it's just at the beginning of the end step, period. Seems pretty sweet to me. Grizzled Angler is 3 for a 2/3, put the top 2 cards of your library in your graveyard, and then if there's a colorless creature, you can transform it into a 4/5 with the ability that creature your opponent's control attack this turn available. That's for a finisher in any sort of controlling style deck, because you make your opponents attack you, the creatures are all tapped down, gives you access to them. It also, by itself, Grizzled Angler is a self-mill style card, which there is, as we'll get to in a minute, there is definitely some form of self-mill that's a possibility. Even Wizards themselves, I forget who wrote the article, I think it was either Marshall Sutcliffe or Ken Nagel, I forget which one of them. One of them talks about this in the article we'll get to. I think it's Marshall Sutcliffe talks about the fact that you can have a self-mill. It may not be the best thing ever, but it may exist as a sub-theme. Then we have these 5, which actually, let's just go to the main article with them. These are going to be the intro pack rares. Like Rasmussen put this together. These are the intro pack rares for the set, and they look like this. Now, in terms of what they are, let's take a look. Sanctifier of Souls is 4 for a 2/3. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield, under your control, it gets 1/1 till end of turn, and then 3 exile a creature from your graveyard, put a 1/1 white spirit with flying into play. What's interesting here is that the spirit is not a human, which means that if you're using a human tribal theme, not so much going on. But the fact that it becomes pumped up by playing more creatures, and the fact that you can effectively, if they're removing your creatures, you can recycle them as a mana sink, because it seems to be instant speed, is pretty strong for an intro rare, I have to say. I think it's pretty solid, especially for limited. Ulvenwald Observer is 6 for a 6/6. Whenever a creature you control with toughness 4 or greater dies, tree folk, toughness, right? Toughness, good flavor. Draw a card. Hey, seems pretty solid, especially for a later game in limited, but even any kind of very aggressive rampy style deck that has lots of big creatures, this is effective card draw. Commander, this is sweet. This is really strong in a commander creature deck. And the fact that this is a 6/6, hey, I might have to consider it for my L deck. Niblis of the Frost, sweet artwork by the way. 4 for a 3/3 flyer prowess. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery, tap target creature an opponent controls, it doesn't untap. This is, in my opinion, the strongest of these, and none of them are awful. Niblis of the Frost is sweet. Not only is it a flying prowess for 4, which in limited is ridiculous, 3/3, but also it gives you at instant or sorcery speed, playing spells, gives you a tempo advantage. It's not often we see something like this. Now realize it's only for 1 turn, so it doesn't stay tapped down, as we've seen many of these in the past that do that. But it offers insane flexibility on their turn and your turn, and it's a very strong creature. I mean, I think it's amazing. I think it's a really solid card. Assembled Alphas is 6 for a 5/5. Whenever it blocks or becomes blocked, deals 3 damage to that creature and 3 damage to the creature's controller. What I like about this is that it's both offensive and offensively defensive. What's great is that when it blocks, if you're on the offensive, even if they chump block it, they're going to suffer for chump blocking it. That seems great. And it's very defensive if you need it to be, because the fact if you're an aggressive deck and this is towards the top of your curve, that seems really annoying for your opponent to try to attack into you. And yeah, I mean, again, great card and really cool flavor. Assembled Alphas. Newscraft Mob is 6 for a 0/0 with 5/1 counters, and whenever an opponent casts a spell, remove 1/1 counter if you do put a 2/2 black zombie. I might be reading this wrong, but I think this is the worst of the lot, simply because of the fact that your opponent controls its strength. Yes, you get creatures, that is true, but it's very, very easy for your opponent to be able to control how big and when in combat this is going to be anything, because it's whenever they cast a spell at any time. So if you're on the offensive and they block you, or if you're on the defensive, or they're attacking you and then you block, they control the power and toughness of your creature very, very easily. It's not just any spell. It's not just a specific kind of spell, it's any spell. Of them, I think this is the worst. But honestly, they're all very, very solid for intro rares. I have to say, I'm quite impressed with Wizards this time around. Boom. And then, other than that, with the last ones we have is, I'll put the articles for today that I noticed below. Of course, you can check the website as well. They talk about stacking cards via graveyards. You've seen this before, of course, with cards like Kindle and Accumulated Knowledge. We have Accumulated Knowledge at sorcery speed. Sweet, sweet card. Yeah, it's not quite as good, but it's still probably going to be a standard staple. I mean, given the level of card draw that this affords you, especially if you do any kind of milling or self-mill mechanic. Very solid. And then they talk about the card. And then also Galvanic Bombardment is an instant for 1, deals X damage to our creature, where X is 2+ number of cards named in your graveyard. This is effectively a lightning bolt if you have 1 in your graveyard, and it only scales from there, which seems pretty sweet. Realize, of course, what's frustrating is this is only a creature. Personally, it would have been great to have a pseudo lightning bolt. Now, I think it probably could have gotten out of hand if they made it able to hit players because of just as a finisher card, but still, I think it's still a solid removal, especially at common. And as you'll notice in the articles I talk about, there definitely is a potential for self-mill, and there, of course, there are decks, prison decks, for example, and of course, for a little more casual, but there are also decks that allow you Laboratory Maniac decks. There's a name for it, I just slipped my mind. But let that you self-mill yourself and then you win. Definitely an option. Very cool cards, I have to say, all around. Wizards' set is looking amazing so far. I'm very excited. What do you guys think about tonight's stuff? Let me know down below in the comment section. If you enjoyed the video, please tap the like button. If you're new to the channel, check in and subscribe. As always, Rocksbox90 signing out. I'll see you guys next time.